Now, in the saddle, basically we have our foot on the inside and our other foot scissoring back here. So I have good control of his leg and his knee line is towards my chest here. Usually I use this left hand to kind of cuff the inside of the hamstring and my chest can be forwards on top of this shin. So the main thing that's difficult about heel hooks is catching it to start with. So if we just get good at finishing it, then we can add in a bunch of stuff, and I'll help you practice. So here, if I think about sliding my elbow along the inside of his shin until I get to the knuckle of his big toe, then now I'm trying to pull his toe back towards his knee. That's when I'm circling my wrist underneath it, and then this is probably the thing that will make it much, much tighter, is bringing our elbow back to our hip, and then, yes, and here, I want just kind of where my watch would be poking out, and my elbow stuck to my hip. So my forearm is at right angles to the shin, and when I make a grip with my hand, I can usually go gable grip, and I'm trying to put my forearm down on top of the shin. So if we need to extend our legs a little bit and move our hips so that we're a little bit more on the side of the knee, that's fine, but you'll get taps anyway. So here, I'm leaning over until his knee is pointing straight up, and then I can use my hips into the side of the knee to get the tap. So as long as this grip is really tight and the leg is bent, that's where all the tension will come in. A good way to practice it is get the tap and then let go of the foot. And now when I move my hips forward, that's how much further we'd be going with our hips while his foot is still stuck in the armpit. So when we have the saddle, you can, generally we're putting our feet together when we finish, but we can cross our ankles. I like to keep this other leg kind of pretty long here, like behind the head, behind the butt, because if he does this really annoying thing where he comes in and starts attacking your leg, it's very embarrassing. So instead of that happening, just kind of pinching here like this. So when we're looking to catch the heel, I like to grab the knee and that helps expose the heel. And you just practice it while you're sitting up first. But this elbow is going to slide, we catch the big toe, and now I'm trying to pull his toes back towards his knee, circle my forearm underneath it with the blade of my forearm just at his Achilles, and then I'm pulling my elbow back to my hip to bend his leg. And now with the weight on my elbow, and we link our hands together, then now it should be pretty easy to bridge. And if you let go of the foot, then that's where that power is going to come from, instead of using our upper body to rotate. So what we'll do is, I'll show this one more time. You can practice this. I'll give you guys some continuations, and I think we're kind of all right for time, but I'll show a little bit more than you can probably digest. Then you've got all weekend to pick my brain about it, have a coffee, refresh, and then we'll go for the 11th session. So when we're in our saddle, it's our, in this case, left foot in the middle, so his leg is over the top of my thigh, and I'm pinching my knees together. So now, cupping inside the hamstring, sliding down until we catch the big toe, and pulling the toes towards the knee. Now here I'm hopping his heel back towards his butt with my elbow stuck on the mat. So there's no chance of this toe slipping. We can get our gable grip with our forearm on top of the shin, and now we can use our hips to finish. Cool? Let's go. I'm just going to go through like a little bit of basic leg lock stuff. So, when we're in this saddle position, making sure that the knee is captured, the leg is bent, and I'm in a pretty good position here. So the main thing that was probably corrected is just when we catch the heel, while my elbow is still in the ground, moving our elbow back towards our hip to bend the leg, and now there's a lot more tension in the leg and we're able to finish more easily. Now, a good defense for them is to turn their foot this way. So now it's harder for me to catch the heel. So a simple version, which is why when you watch matches of leg lockers, they're always spinning out of bounds and stuff. That's because when we're trying to catch the heel, if I've almost caught it, so I'd say if my elbow is on the inside of his big toe and Andreas is turning, then I can turn with him, and now I want to catch the heel with my left hand and do that toe strike while we're up here. So sometimes if you're fast, you'll catch it here, but more likely, as he turns, now we catch it and we get into our finishing position. So that's assuming that we're rolling at a speed where we almost caught it, and we want to be able to just do a rotation to keep up with it. So a couple of things about that rotation. If his leg is straight and he's spinning, it's easier for him to get his leg free. So when we're here, if I was trying to catch it and I want to keep a bend in his leg, I can use my hand that's close to the body to push the top of his foot down. So now, as he's turning, if I can lift my hips up and bend that leg, now I want to roll on my left shoulder. So now I've kind of tightened up the roll, and then this is where we should be able to toe strike, and catch and finish. Yeah? So that's all assuming that we don't have control of this second leg. So anytime we land in the saddle from whatever entry, if we can reach forward and lower this leg so that we can get control of the second leg, then now it's much harder for them to rotate and much harder for them to use this foot to kick our legs and free their main leg. So we've got a few different ways that we can transition from attacking the top leg, which you can attack, but to then transition to the bottom leg. So probably the most beginner-friendly one is trying to get this leg to the other side of the body. So when we're here, if I can always have one hand above the knee, that means it's harder for Andreas to pull his knee back to his chest. And now when I take this hand out and punch in between the legs and lift it up on top of my shoulder, then we get our other hand behind the knee. And then here you can do this different ways, but we just want to get his leg to the other side of our body. And now it's hard for him to defend, and we can start attacking our heel here. So when we are in the saddle, we've landed here, we could always try and collect the second leg, and my knee on the outside is helping to pinch it. You can even throw this foot on the hip to help control the leg even more. But when I look to pass this leg to the other side, it's important we have one hand above the knee. So from here, I can thread in between the legs, and then I punch up to get it on my shoulder. Another way is to grab on top of the knee, reach behind your head, and pass it over, and then we can pass it to the other side. But now that leg's out of the way, and we can start attacking the leg a bit more. So that can be hard to do. So another really good option is when Andreas is trying to pull his leg out, I'm going to use my hand that's close to the body to capture the Achilles heel, and I always want to keep a bend in this leg to keep it stuck. Now my left shin can push into the back of his knee, and then this can help me, again, extend my leg and tuck my feet across the body, so that now we've got that leg to the other side of our body. That leaves us free to start catching the heel. Now, it is okay to upper body rotate. Like when we're this dead to rights and we don't have to go all the way back onto our hip, we've got the knee line, it's past our thighs, we can use upper body rotation to pull the heel towards our face. That's completely fine. This ideal braking mechanics is using our hips. So, in the same way that we roll to catch the heel, sometimes when we're looking for this second leg, Andreas is onto it and he's trying to turn already, and that's where we can do this same motion with a roll, right? So now my feet are keeping his leg out of the way, and we can get to our heel. So I know that's a lot of information. I'll just show you an entry, just, so you know how to get there. So we'll do the classic one from single X. So if I'm in single X, so pretty familiar to most of you. Ankle in the armpit, important that we have a deep Achilles grip. My heel is on the hip, my knee is lifting up, and I'm pinching my knee to my heel. So usually this foot, I'm just kind of flaring behind here. Very often they take this foot off the hip. And now if we block this knee, we can kick them up the butt and make them put their hands on the mat. So having this hand on the knee stops the step forward. And now our foot that was on the ground is going to go to the underneath position here. So now I have an X on his far leg, and I can use my crossed ankles to lift his far leg towards me, and then I'm just extending my outside leg, reaching over the top, and when we land in the saddle, we'll have the second leg control as well. So this is probably like your bread and butter entry into single legs. And if you just think about getting your feet in between their legs and essentially trying to isolate one of them, it's going pretty well. Because right now, I've got one foot around the outside and I'm going to end up attacking this leg. So yeah, if Andreas takes that foot off the hip, blocking this knee is important. Now we can bring him forward, which puts some of his weight on our hands and makes it easier. And then this reverse X position is our foot that was on the hip is going underneath our own leg. And we're curling our toes back close to the hips so that we have a good chance of catching his second leg above the knee line. So when I block the armpit and I lift my cross legs, now once his hips are above my shoulders, I can start extending my leg, and then here we can drop onto that side a little bit so we can start attacking the leg. So there are lots of variations of that, whether you're doing it from butterfly, from seated positions. For example, if Andreas is seated and I'm looking like I'm trying to get, this is basically single legs. So if I was seated and I had single legs, it would look like this. When Andreas is trying to escape and he's moving backwards out of the fear of his single legs, he kind of has to put his foot on the ground to scoot his butt backwards, right? So now we can put our head down, reach in between the legs, and now we have the saddle as well. So there are lots of other ways of entering it. I just wanted to give you a few entries. So I think we've got about 10 minutes left or so. What I'll do is show the cool one more time. And then, like I said, I'm here all weekend, so please pick my brain if you want to. If you wanted to break this down, like when you go back to the gym, in terms of like different ways of training this, what I would say is getting really good at controlling some of these legs with your leg is a good idea. Because if Andreas is scooting backwards and I can pinch his leg really well with my legs, then I can use my hands to attack the legs. So anytime we can reach and control the second leg, this will be good. They're very likely to start pulling this leg out. So if our top hand can grab the Achilles, all the while keeping a bend in this primary leg, now my left leg can extend and put tension on the leg. So when I extend it and tuck my feet over the top leg, now we can capture the heel using a good gable grip, and now we can upper body rotate to the finish. Yeah. Let's not over that. So when we're in the saddle, generally when our knees pinching together and we're trying to bend this leg, we control the top leg to control it. So if they're starting to hide their heel, then a good idea is to control the big toe. So here, if I use my top hand to get to the big toe and pull the toes back towards the knee, then now I try and get my other arm underneath, and I like a figure 4 grip here. So when I pull the toes back towards the knee and start bridging into the side of the knee, often we'll get like gross lateral knee bar kind of taps. Yeah, but for them to relieve the pressure on the lateral knee bar, they pretty much have to pick a hip. So if he goes this way, then now we can catch the heel. If you go the other way, then that's where we can pass the foot to the top, and now we're likely to try and finish with an outside heel. Probably expecting it to slip, and then ready to go to our reverse figure 4, where we'll start. So, and you have the whatnot there as well. But yeah, if you're trying to catch the heel and they've already started spinning, then if you get to the big toe and pull the toe back, pretty much whatever grip, as long as we start facing our hips to the side of the knee, we should get gross pressure, and at least it stops them turning. So if they can't turn, then we might be able to pass it to the top, the outside, or bring it back for the inside. So get to that toe control. If we were kind of in the motion of catching the heel and you're starting to turn out, then I'm going to put my foot on the hip and invert over my right shoulder. So now as you turn, I'm bringing this leg through, and we can go into the back side. Like that. Yeah.